This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV, the
News-free Dixie.
News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
I'd like to thank y'all for coming tonight. My name is Callie Hurd. I would like to welcome you to the We All Be Group Inc. Jimmie LUNceford Jamboree Festival. It's a panel discussion on Memphis Rhythm is Our Business. The mistress of ceremony for tonight is Miss Jackie Murray. Jackie Murray is a professional actress / singer who has been on stage in several Memphis area theaters. She has also directed several stage productions, including the 2016 staging of the Juneteenth Story, for which she won a Diversity on Stage Award for Best Director of 2016. You can also see her in several local commercials and award-winning films. Jackie is mother of 2 and grandmother of 1. Now let's give a hand clap for Miss Jackie Murray.
Yeah, Jackie! Yeah! Talk about,
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Everybody good?
Yeah.
How'd you enjoy that movie?
All right.
Yeah? My mother done told me. Yeah, they played that forever and ever.
I think I will.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank both Callie and Ron for inviting me out this evening to be the moderator for this panel discussion. I really did enjoy that movie. And it's interesting to see how they used to use the music by the black entertainers, and the white entertainers would, on film, would actually be playing their music, or our music. And, that happened a lot, unfortunately, but we still got it out there, which is a wonderful thing for us, because we have that history that goes even further back than a lot of us even actually know about. Now, I would like to introduce or tell a little bit about our panelists this evening. We're going to have a very brief discussion, and then about Jimmie LUNceford. And then we're also going to have about a 20-minute session where you guys will be able to ask questions of the panelists and give your own thoughts and insights into what we just watched. Okay?
Right.
All right. Okay, so the first one that I will note is Dr. David L. Acey Sr. David L. Acey Sr. was the Assistant Professor of African American Rhetoric and Interracial Communications at the University of Memphis in the Department of Communications here in Memphis, Tennessee. From 1979 to 1985, Acey was Director of African American Studies at the university and developed several Afrocentric courses currently taught in the department. His academic and professional life has been devoted to improving the quality of life for African Americans and others in the quest for achieving success in a global society. Dr. Acey currently serves as Executive Director of the Africa in April Cultural Awareness Festival, Inc., a nonprofit organization that has been in existence for over 31 years.
Wow.
This organization sponsors year-round activities annually during the month of April, designed to celebrate multicultural ethnicity and diversity. Let's give a round of applause for Dr. David L. Acey Sr.
Yeah. Dr. Acey. Yeah.
Our next panelist is Stephen Lee. Mr. Lee is the founder, CEO, and artistic director. He is an award-winning pianist with 30 years of professional experience performing jazz worldwide. He holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Jazz Studies from the University of New York City College and a Master of Arts in Teaching from Freed-Hardeman University. His music website is www.leeJazzOmegamusic.com. I see y'all writing, so I'm going to spell it for you. It's www.Lee, L-E-E, Jazz, J-A-Z-Z-O, the letter O, MEGAMUSIC.com. Anybody need me to repeat that one more time? Okay. LeeJazzOmegamusic.com. All right. He is also the publisher of an online jazz publication, which is, here's another one for you, www.inconcertmag.com. That's N-I-N concert, M-A-G.com. You got that one? All right. And that features jazz artists from around the world. Let's give another round of applause for Mr. Stephen Lee.
Yeah, Steve. Like the jazz.
Now, last but not least, our host for this evening, Ronald Hurd II. He's also known as R2C2H2, the artivist. He is founder of the We All Be Group, Inc. Hurd is currently an African American history historian, artist, and doctorate student. Hurd illustrated, wrote, and self-published a book on James Reese Europe entitled James Reese Europe, Jazz Lieutenant. The book is listed on the Smithsonian Institute's Jazz Book for Kids and Youth Adults list. And I've read it. It's very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hurd is also the founder and organizer of the Jimmie LUNceford Jamboree Festival, which you all are part of right now.
Give us a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
He's a Memphis music legend in his own right and a fellow Lunsford enthusiast. In 2007, they became partners in crime as they went beyond trying to give honor to Hurd.
I don't know. Don't worry about that. Mr. Amster able to try to play tricks. Don't worry about that. Let's just get to the discussion.
Anyway.
Please.
So let's give another round of applause for our host, Mr. Ronald Hurd.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank y'all. Very kind.
Okay, and you will take your seat.
Yeah.
All right, so the first question that I would like to ask each of you to answer, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
You don't have to use it all, but you may.
Okay.
Okay. Why was Jimmie LUNceford important, and how do we get students and the general public to understand why he was important? And we'll start right here with you, Mr. Lee.
You mean students, I guess, basically here in Memphis, right? Or you talking about worldwide? Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just awareness, because honestly, I have to be honest, I've been playing piano for about 30 years. I've traveled the world as a musician. But the first time, I moved back to Memphis, left Memphis in 87, Carver High School graduate. Moved back to Memphis about 6 years ago from New York. The first time I heard Jimmie LUNceford, about his brother right here. Yeah, what's it? I'm sorry. Yeah,
DK Pope.
Okay, yeah. But I used to play at this jazz thing at the Firehouse. He mentioned his name. So, and that was the education to me. So, as an educator, I think one thing is to do what Ron is doing now, just make people aware of who he was by some way you can get with the president of the school board or the superintendent of the music department, Drew Davidson, and see if he can incorporate maybe not a lesson, but somehow maybe once like during Black History Month, maybe he could just have the teachers teach a lesson on Jimmie LUNceford. I'm sorry. That's one way to make kids aware of it, because, like I say, I'm 48. I never heard of it, and most kids nowadays. I mean, back then you had to look at music. Jazz was part of a culture, so you could rhythms like boo-doo, ba-doo, boo-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo, doo-doo. That was in your ears because you heard it on the radio all the time. But now they just hear, they're hearing, whatever the rap is, so it's not in their ears. So it's not a culture like it used to be. So how you get that culture back to these kids? That's a challenge. But one way, just making, just lesson, making teachers aware of it. I don't know if y'all do workshops for teachers and kind of, make it part of, hey, this week we're talking about Memphis jazz. We're talking about Jimmie LUNceford, Finest Newborn, and you can do it maybe Black History Month, or you only have to wait till that month. Just make it part of a lesson plan. Just try to make it through the curriculum in Memphis schools.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Being a professor and a teacher, you have to try and get the Shelby County schools to concentrate more on the arts. The arts. It's a very important part of this community. And that includes the visual arts, dance, music, jazz, and all of the arts. Because we have a lot of children that are very talented in this community. If you go into the inner city, you talk with them, they can dance, they sing, they can draw, they can do a lot of things, but they don't have anything to do with that talent. They just do it, and you see it on a railroad car or somewhere else. So if we can get the city of Memphis, state of Tennessee, and the local universities some kind of way to concentrate on our great musical history from Memphis. Speaking of Memphis, we have a great legacy and history of Memphis, especially in jazz. A lot of people don't know about. There were great jazz musicians that came here. Jimmie LUNceford, what he has done, and many artists that he helped launch their careers at Manassas High School, Booker T. Washington, McDaniels. A lot of our professors we don't know. So one reason my wife and I, Yvonne, started the African April Cultural Awareness Festival 31 years ago is just the Cultural Awareness Festival. Not only to get African Americans into their history and culture, but especially us. We don't know anything about Africa. See, culture is so important, and the rhythms that came out of Africa. And I don't play anything, but I know the rhythms. Right. I can move to the groove like the guys. And it comes from in here. Right. It's something you can't teach. But our kids have rhythm. They're doing the juke dancing now. All kind of stuff is out there if we can just harness it and let them know about the great historical tradition of Memphis music, coming from Mississippi all the way up the trail, the blues trail to Memphis, and being incubated here, and W.C. Handy and Frank Stroger, great jazz musician that played with Phineas Newborn Jr. and George Coleman, and you can even go back before Booker Little. See, these names I'm calling you might not be familiar. We're talking about trumpet player. Booker Little went to Tennessee State University, played with Phineas Newborn and his brother Calvin Newborn, right here in Memphis, Tennessee, that were world-renowned jazz musicians. So we have to talk it. We have to go to WMR, talk to Melvin Massey. Melvin's doing a great job at the University of Memphis. Also, Overton, Mr. Valdez over there, worked with us with African April, bring his jazz group. The band director at South Rhodes College is doing a great job with jazz, trying to help educate this community. Culture is what water is to a fish. If you take a fish out of water, what happens to the fish? You die. If you take a people out of their culture, what happens to the people? They die. So we've been taken out of our culture, and we like a fish out of water, because culture is so important. It helps you recreate yourself. And when you can know and understand about these great musicians, especially since we're talking about music, and what they have contributed to the world, it'll give us a sense of pride. Coming from the African American community, you have the Italian community, Jewish community, the Greek community. They celebrate their ethnicity through their festival. We started Africa in April to get our people into the culture. Everything started in Africa. Everybody in the world is an African. You can debate me on that if you like. Everybody's an African, historically, religiously, anthropologically, any way you want to think about it, is Africa. But why aren't African Americans into Africa? Because we've been taught from a Eurocentric point of view. You go to Melrose, you go to high school, they teach you about Columbus, discovered America, and all, George Washington, all the European heroes, and we're forced to learn from a Eurocentric point of view. While others learn that, European, Jewish people, but they learn about their Jewish history, Italian history, and American history, if you will. So we have to get into our history because we have so much to offer to the world. But if we don't do it, we meaning African Americans, nobody else would do it. But we don't even know about us. I mean, the rhythms, multi-rhythmatic patterns came from Africa. Right. All the beating of the drums, the pitch and catch call, the orchestra. Why you see the guys in the movie with Jimmie LUNceford? They are moving. You got to move when you hear African music. You got to move. You can't help it. James Brown, you got to move when you hear James Brown. Right. It comes from this Afrocentric culture that we don't even understand.
Okay, that's time.
Okay.
I'm going to give you something at the end. You'll be able to speak your mind.
Okay, yeah, I want it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But that's time for now.
Okay.
Just for now.
No, I'm through.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
I mean, you should. Okay.
That was good. I just wanted to
And next, Mr. Ron Hurt. Now I know I'm going to have to keep him in there.
Yeah, you go.
All right.
I'm trying to get my thoughts arranged. But let me start by saying that all true educational pursuits start at the foundation of knowledge itself. You got to have knowledge itself in all your educational pursuits because you got to have confidence in who you are and where you come from in order to do anything in life. Like the paraphrase Marcus Garvey, a people without confidence is twice defeated in life before you even begin. So it's something that I want to break down because I know some things and, whatever. That clip right there from 1936 is something interesting because there's not too many things of a live Jimmie LUNceford show. You got to understand that Jimmie LUNceford performed that floor show for thousands and thousands of dancers at one time. That clip is interesting because in 1936, the director of that clip actually played Abraham Lincoln in The Birth of a Nation that resurrected the Klan. So it doesn't make up for what they did with Birth of a Nation, that 10-minute clip. But they have an understanding that the drummer, Jimmy Crawford, and the bassist, Mose Allen, were Jimmie LUNceford's high school band students. And they were considered some of the best in their field. And to also understand that the brother that's singing with Rhythm Is Our Business, Willie Smith, went to school with Jimmie LUNceford at Fisk University. Willie Smith is one of the top 3 jazz alto saxophonists of the swing era. He is part of the Big Three. The Big Three is Willie Smith, Johnny Hodges from the Duke Ellington Band, and Benny Carter. Those are the top 3 that established that alto sax swing sound. So you're dealing with some giants, right? And Jimmie LUNceford was first high school band director. But he understood that music was not just entertainment, but empowerment. Just like Duke Ellington understood that. You listen to Duke Ellington, he was a historian. He was talking about the history of black folks in this American experiment. Like, Black, Brown, and Beige concert, like Black Beauty, that talk about the great Florence Mills. A lot of us don't know our history, so it's speaking codes. But also getting back to the movie Blues in the Night, the guy who played the clarinet and the saxophonist, like I said, is Elia Kazan. Arguably the greatest director of all time. He did On the Waterfront. He did A Streetcar Named Desire. He introduced the world to James Dean in his first major movie role called East of Eden. His actors were nominated for 21 Oscars and won 9. He won a twice Best Director Oscar and also a couple of Golden Globes and Tonys. But he's kind of considered, it's controversial because some people think he's a snitch. because during the 50s, during the McCarthy era, during the Red Scare, he testified before the House of Un-American Activities and basically ratted out his friends in Hollywood who were communists. Now, they were communists, but he ratted them out, so it was like, and Ronald Reagan was the president of the Screen Actors Guild at the time. They're good friends, whatever. Whatever you want to make of it, right? So he had got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Oscars back in '99, and it's worth looking at the response from the people in the crowd. Because Martin Scorsese, that's like his idol, and Robert De Niro introduced him to get his Lifetime Achievement. But getting back to Jimmie LUNceford, what is so important, look at everything that was shown. When them guys were dancing, we still doing that today in Memphis. They call it juking. They call that juking. They were doing that back in the 30s and on the 20s. And then you got to think about Memphis is a jazz town. When Jimmie LUNceford was here, he was here at the same time as Mary Lou Williams, who is the mother of modern jazz. Mary Lou Williams, a piano prodigy from Atlanta. Her husband was John Williams. She ended up working for Andy Kirk, Clouds of Joy, who also grew up with Jimmie LUNceford in Denver, Colorado. Their music teacher was Wilberforce Whiteman, who is the father of Paul Whiteman, the so-called king of jazz, who commissioned George Gershwin to do Rhapsody in Blue. So you got to understand who you're dealing with, who your people, who you come from, who are these people. So education, foundation, knowledge itself.
All right. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you another 5 minutes.
I'll be 5 minutes. Now,
say whatever you would like.
yeah, if you show these kids nowadays, I mean, I'm teaching, I got to teach tomorrow, this video, they will have a whole nother look on jazz because they right there was amazing. I mean, like you said, I'm coming from, one day I was teaching class, I was doing jazz dancing, so I went back doing show my video of Jitterbug and all that stuff. And they was excited about it. You know, they was like, wow, how you doing all that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if they was aware, that's what I'm saying, you just have the awareness. If they see things like this, because if it feels good to a child, any human, they gonna gravitate to it. If it feels good and it's interesting, they gonna like it. So if you show them that film, I think that would just open up just conversation about who was this cat, right. Who these cats here are. Right. So.
Yeah, you see the improvisation. Jazz is improvised music you see the guys beating on the chairs. They had drums. They beating on the chairs, tin can. That's what they did in Africa. Any rhythm thing, anything that would make sound. Then you saw the plunger to go on the trumpets. They introduced all of that into the music to make the horn sound different. All of this is improvisation. This is the talent I was talking about in these students that we talk and mentor now in the inner city. They got it, like he's saying. Right. All you have to do is grab them and show them, and they will really begin to appreciate the artistic part of it, not only the musical part. And they say, "Oh, I can do that. I'm doing it anyway." They just don't know how to define it, right? Even the kids now with the African American kids with the little cut in their hair with different scars, that's Africa. They don't even know where the barber just cutting their hair. No, it's more than cutting hair when you understand it. It's part of the history and your culture. And when you learn to appreciate your culture, you can do it. So I was getting ready to say earlier on, culture is so important because African Americans are like a freshwater fish been put in salt water. And if you put them in salt water, it loses its balance. It loses its color. It becomes disoriented. That's what Eurocentric thought has done to us. We like freshwater fish in salt water. But once we take that freshwater fish out of the salt water and put him in the fresh water, his color come back. He becomes agile. He becomes swimming right. So we got to put our children and our people back in the fresh water. And the fresh water is what these gentlemen are talking about, our culture and our history, showing them who we have been, who we are, how we made it with one hand tied behind our backs. If we had both hands, but that's what gave us the courage to keep on keeping on. Just to digress a little, I was the first to go to college in my class, in my family, from Orange Mound, very poor family. Went to Memphis State, totally white and totally racist and totally segregated. In my head, I couldn't fail. See, I wasn't going to fail. I don't care what they put on me. The more they challenged me, and they did challenge Brother DK and those with, serious trouble, I was determined. to graduate. I didn't care what they did to me. I've been to hell and back, so I had to do it for the community. My community, it was nothing but about get an education. So my point is, I was motivated in this hostile environment to create, and I had to create my own study time. I didn't have anybody to study with. When me and Pope was over there, we studied together. We were too busy fighting them, though, but because we didn't like what we saw. But my point is, get into art. These kids, see this T-shirt this man got on? Kids do that all the time in Orange Mound, at the Orange Mound. They just drawing. And they're so creative, playing the piano, just doodling. But they just need someone with the interest to point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
This great institution here, I have to give STAX out a lot of credit. That's what they are doing. And they have been very successful. So, but anyway, the guys, you got to create something. African Americans, the real ones that know about the history, you always got to do something. Let me bring it home where you can understand. You watch the NFL football players. When they run a touchdown, they have to do something. They can't stand still. And then the folks cut it out. We're not going to do that. We're going to fine you for it. It's in the DNA. They dump the ball across the goal. They're going to have to do something. They're going to do their dance. You see them doing the dance, right? Why you think they're just doing it because they want to show out? No. It's in here. They can't help it.
Right.
So you shouldn't blame them because that's when they're at the best. Okay, in other words, we just got to continue to do what Ron is doing with the video, and all of you out there in some capacity can do some things. So let me be quiet before I get cut off.
No, you talk like fountain of water. Well, basically, also, I want to get back to the movie a little bit about Elia Kazan. Let me also give him credit for being the co-founder of the Actor Studio, along with Lee Strasberg. That's, I think, very important. There's another movie you should check out by him that he directed called Pinky. It came out back in 1949. Jean Crane plays this light-skinned black woman passing, but she was an actual white woman in real life, but she played a light-skinned black woman passing, and also starred Ethel Waters, the great blues singer, jazz singer, and Ethel Barrymore from the great acting dynasty. And all three were nominated for Oscars. Lead for Jean and Best Supporting for the two ladies. But the thing about it is also the scene in the jail. The brother who was singing blues, that's William Gillespie. He's from Nashville. Both his parents went to Fisk University. Jimmie LUNceford went to Fisk University. He's supposed to be the next William Warfield or Paul Robeson. Never worked out for him. Did a lot of radio, voice work. Ended up dying back in Nashville at the age of 60. He was working in a funeral home at the time. So it's so many stories here, so many things to connect. But getting back to Memphis, like Miles Davis said, he said, the 4 words you want to describe jazz history, it starts with 4 words. Or it ends with 4 words. It's Louis Armstrong and Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker, dad's from Memphis. Louis Armstrong, his second wife, Lil Hardin Armstrong, was from Memphis. Was a sophisticated woman, used to be the King Oliver's pianist of Chicago. Louis was sent to Chicago, summoned by King Oliver from New Orleans. She didn't think nothing of him until he started recording with them, because Louis was so loud. He was the second trumpet or cornet. He had to stand like 20 feet behind everybody else. And then King Oliver started telling Lil, look, he's better than me. The boy's better than me. He got no confidence. So Lil, you know how women get, oh yeah, I can fix him up. He's a fixer-upper. So she did that, gave him, King Oliver his walking papers, organized. She's the godmother of modern jazz, a black woman from Memphis. She organized the very important High 5 and High 7 recordings that are the foundation for modern jazz. She also sent Louis Armstrong to Fletcher Henderson back in 1924. And that changed everything as well, too. But here's the thing about Louis Armstrong. He owes a debt to Memphis. Memphis is an important jazz town. Because not only was his wife from there, but a cat he used to work for at the Vendome Theater up in Chicago, the orchestra leader, Erskine Tate, was a Memphian. He used to play for W.C. Handy. When he went to New York, the top trumpet player in New York City was a brother from Memphis named Johnny Dunn. He used to play for W.C. Handy. You see how that works? You know what I'm saying? So it's so important that we start reclaiming our narratives.
Right.
And not only that, Jimmie LUNceford was a man who was very religious. When I say religious, he believed in himself. Me, myself, and I, the Trinity. He believed in himself. Like I said, it goes back to Marcus Garvey. If you cannot believe in yourself, you can't do anything in life. You defeated before you started. Jimmie LUNceford was able to see something in those black children that a lot of folks could not see. He saw music as being a way, as a rite of passage to make boys into men and girls into ladies. I had the honor of talking to Sister Catherine Perry Thomas Manassas class of 1932. She's a classically trained pianist, but her brother Andrew Perry actually played for Jimmie LUNceford in high school. He's a saxophonist, and also ended up playing for him professionally when he flipped. And she said something to me. She said, LUNceford had such a profound influence on them guys because he was tall, dark, and handsome. You saw in the, how he looked. He was a tall, dark, and handsome brother. Not Clark Gable, Jimmie LUNceford. You know what I'm saying? And they went crazy over him. He dressed immaculately, was sophisticated, very well educated, didn't curse, didn't drink, didn't smoke, was the ultimate gentleman. So it had a profound effect on those guys growing up because he was not hired to be the music instructor. He was the first high school band director, but he was hired to be English teacher, Spanish teacher, history teacher, gym, baseball, football, basketball, track coach, anything but a high school band director. But what I love about this story is he believed in the village. He called upon the people of the community of New Chicago. Invest in our people. Help us raise the money to get the instruments to do the lessons. He is credited as being the first person to teach jazz studies in a formal educational setting in any place in the world, in North Memphis, back in 1927. That brother did that. They got the old Victrola. They're playing Louis Armstrong. They're bringing it on down to high fives and high sevens. All that stuff at Manassas. And he was the football coach. My thing about this, I'm going to shut up for now. I'm tired of hearing people talking about Memphis, Atlanta dead. You have no idea that Memphis, Egypt, like Memphis, Tennessee, is the land of the master teachers and the innovators. Right. We teach the world how to swing. We teach the world how to manifest. Get that thought out your head, because who came out to Jimmie LUNceford? W.T. McDaniel, Lucy Campbell, school teachers, mother gospel music, teaching that Booker T. Washington for decades, discovered Dr. King's favorite singer, not Mahalia Jackson, J. Robert Bradley, W.T. McDaniel, Molden, Maurice White, visionary, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Don't you understand who you are? Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
I got more, but I'm sure.
Okay, we have, we actually have like 8 minutes left.
Okay.
Okay, question.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Ask
All right,
questions.
so let's spend 5 minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions for our panelists. Yes, sir.
Coming from a writer, filmmaker, particular one, I'd like to background on the time period when both films were made. I know that, with the dance routines, the tap was real big in a certain period, and I know LUNceford was innovator in the jazz part. But when did the innovation come to put it on film? Were they ahead of the time? Were they just were they in stride with the times in regard to the tap being incorporated into the film and the music being used? Do you have any background? That makes sense?
In the 1930s, Duke Ellington had I'm trying to think of the tap group, the brothers.
Nicholas Brothers.
And other vocalists that worked within the African American community. They moved to New York and got to play for white folk, but they had already had people that needed work. So Oscar Michaud, I hope I'm pronouncing his name, great filmmaker, way back at the dancers and actors. Paul Robeson, oh wow, don't get me started. Paul Robeson, tallest tree in the forest. You got to understand Paul Robeson, his history and what he did. The predecessor to King, he would not sing Old Man River where the niggas play. He made him change it. He wouldn't sing it anywhere. And he did a whole lot. Paul Robeson and Emperor Jones. He said, I'm an emperor, I'm not a waiter. Anyway, great baritone. Yes, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
I have a quick note about Paul Robeson. I don't know if you know it, Dr. Ace, but his son, before he passed, came to Memphis.
That's right.
And me and another attorney had the opportunity to have lunch with him, and he told me something that really blew my mind. You remember when he had to leave the country, go to Russia or wherever he went to, because he could no longer work here? his son said that Memphis was one of the first cities that helped raise money, supported him, and he always had a love in his heart. He would come back here when he had the opportunity to do concerts or do speaking engagements. So it was a great story. His son told me that personally. So
I was a professor over at the University about Paul Robeson's son, and Paul Robeson was blackballed in the United States. House Un-American Activities said he was causing trouble because he would go to Europe talking about the situation in Memphis and now with black police killing everybody, and he was a spokesperson for the African American community. So they blackballed him, took his passport, they broke him, and he died. His son came back and started raising money and started letting people know about Paul Robeson. Now he's on the United States postal stamp. I mean, but this great man and what he had to go through, he still survived years and years later because his son kept pushing to get his father vindicated, and the United States of America had to vindicate him after all these years. Anyway, that's what the film, movies, and these conversations would do to help raise the level of understanding among our people.
Okay, we have time for one more.
I just want to add the first all-black film endorsed by Hollywood was shot here in this neighborhood called Hallelujah. Directed by King Vidor from Galveston, Texas. He actually got nominated for Best Director Oscar for shooting that film, Hallelujah. It's available online, but you can safely say by 1929, that's when they really started shooting us and our culture.
Okay, one more question? Yes, sir.
There's some other artists. There's some other artists. They basically have to work with that. But there was a lot of black artists in Memphis that have not recognized. Right. Enough artists in Memphis that have not been recognized. Right. Enough.
Yeah.
Right. And I think about W.C. Handy well, Johnny Ace.
Yeah.
Far from him.
Right.
Joe Stone and get his house. Right. Aretha Franklin down the street. Yeah. Charles Lord.
Charles Lord.
George Coleman, yeah.
George Coleman, yeah.
George Coleman, that was
Memphis Minnie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Finest Kelvin.
yeah.
Keep on naming
Keep on rolling.
them. Keep on naming them.
County Club had some
Yeah.
great artists.
Right.
What's the man went to Chicago?
Ben Branch.
Ben Branch, yeah.
Ben Branch.
And that's the wonderful thing that I don't know if is this your first evening with the festivities for Jimmie LUNceford, or have you been participating since like Monday, Tuesday?
It was a gentleman here. We had a ceremony over at the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, June.
Right,
Mhm.
right, right.
And we got a little touch
Yep.
of his history that he thought it was
Yes. Both Callie and Ron have been gracious enough to recognize a lot of the artists that have contributed to the entertainment scene here in Memphis, with our king and queen, our court, and I was honored to be able to read off a lot of those names over at Manassas for the kickoff. So we are recognizing them along with Jimmie LUNceford.
If you leave your email address, whatever, we can email you that information. We also want to let you know that on Saturday will be our last panel discussion. We'll be at the Cosset Library at 12 noon. So we'll have additional information. Yeah,
Right.
additional information.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Mr. Lee, you wanted to give your...
No, I just wanted to thank Ron. for doing this week. Because this is what conversation, letting people know who Jimmie LUNceford was, finest newborn, James. No, I just wanted to thank Ron for doing this week, because this is what the conversation to letting people know who Jimmie LUNceford was, finest newborn, James Williams, George Coleman, Charles Lord, Donald Brown. I mean, Memphis need to know these people. They really need to know him. I think thank you just for starting this. And this gonna blow up. Yeah. But just be patient and just persevere. So
I've been waiting for 10 years. I've been doing this for 10 plus.
Okay.
Actually, for 20 years.
Okay.
And I want to give you this, Brother Steve Lee. You've been doing some unsung work in the community with the jazz workshops, doing that tradition of Jimmie LUNceford. So in recognition of that, we are presenting you with the 2017 Jimmie LUNceford Legacy Award to Brother Steve Lee for a life dedicated to excellence in music and music education. Thank you so much. Keep on doing it. My small token.
Dr. AC, any closing remarks?
Now, I'd like to echo what Brother Lee just said, and hope that all of you all will follow the lead and continue the conversation in your own neighborhoods and wherever. The struggle continues, but the information is important that we need to get out, and we should say in the movement with the Black Panthers and all, everybody can't do everything, but everybody can do something. All right?
Right.
So we have a responsibility to keep it alive, to bring it back, and put the spotlight on Memphis. And don't forget the arts. Just do it that way.
All right.
And also, I want to thank Sister Angela Green on location Memphis for sponsoring this event with us.
Yeah.
She deserves it. On song. She did a lot of great work.
Close us out.
Oh, really? I'm gonna shut up.
I want to thank everybody.
Okay.
I want to thank Callie and Ron for having me
Yeah.
moderate this evening. Again, my name is Jackie Murray. You can find me at jackiemurray.net or on Facebook at Jackie Murray Actress/Director. And I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Website www.jimmylunford.com. It has everything you need.
Yeah, and I did the shirt on Jimmy. I drew this shirt.
Yeah,
But also,
you're
Sister Essie.
Yeah, I was going to say that it has been interesting, Callie and Ron, to cite this important, outstanding individual and bring the awareness to the Memphis and Shelby County community. And I know WQOX and Memphis City School Station would be happy to have this footage, and that's how you can get the word out to the students and the Memphis and Shelby County community. And he says he's a brother to everybody. His name is Brother John. WQOX 88.5.
Oh, John Best.
And in order to get to the Memphis community in a mass way, I think we would it'll be important that we include him in our mass message, because he certainly has the students at heart and educators and all of us to make sure that the word get out. We can't be in all the places that he can be, but he brings in the superintendents, chief of staff, he'll bring individuals who are doing something and make sure that it gets, especially get the focus on students in Memphis, Shelby County. And believe it or not, they won't know unless we tell them. And it's our story that has not been told.
Well, with that, I'm friends with John Best. He knows me very well. And I'm going to tell you something. JimmieLUNceford.com. Come to me. Because we're trying to rename. We don't try. I don't say try the most. We are going to rename the Memphis International Airport after Jimmie LUNceford and Lieutenant Colonel Luke Weathers Jr., one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, Booker T. Washington High School graduate in 1939, and the first black air traffic controller in Memphis. We're going to rename it, and you can come to me. I'm a man of action. See, people know who I am. I'm known. I've been trained by the best. Mr. Emerson Abel Jr., Judge the Army Bailey, and Baba Dick Gregory trained me. I lost all three of them brothers in 2 years. I know what I'm doing. If you want to get stuff done, come holler at me, because folks be watching me. Everywhere I go, they mob me, okay? I go to Harlem, I go to D.C., I go to Cali, I go to Mexico. But what I'm saying is, the people that's doing the work, you holler at those folks. It's people on the sideline that want me to fail, that want us to fail. But by God, I believe in myself. I believe in my cause. I'm doing God work, and God, you can never fail using God's money. I'm playing with God's money. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank Brother Jeff Cole out for hosting us. God bless you for being very patient. Long way.